346 commercial airline passengers fall out of the sky. A multi-trillion-dollar defense budget completely vanishes from the ledgers. A corporate whistleblower is found dead in a parking lot on the morning of his testimony. These massive events occur with zero structural oversight or consequences. It raises a question about who is actually running the country when the chain of command seems to stop before reaching anyone with the power to intervene. This is President Dwight D. Eisenhower giving his farewell address to the nation in January 1961. The five-star general who built the American war machine used his final moments in office to issue a severe warning. He cautioned the public against the acquisition of unwarranted influence by the military-industrial complex. He saw that the immense network of defense contractors and armed forces could lead to a disastrous rise of misplaced power. The modern shadow government functions as a corporate loop, the exact outcome Eisenhower predicted decades ago. The Department of Defense budget for 2025 stands at $886 billion, the largest discretionary expense in the entire federal budget. Nearly $500 billion of those taxpayer dollars flows directly into the accounts of private corporations every single year. This machine is fueled by the revolving door. A senior military officer spends decades inside the Pentagon, learning which programs get funded and who holds the purse strings. Upon retirement, a private defense contractor hires them for a seven-figure salary to use those inside connections to win back government contracts. In 2024, an investigation revealed the Pentagon was paying to send active-duty military officers to work inside companies like Boeing and Lockheed Martin. Under the title of a fellowship, taxpayer dollars were effectively used to fund corporate lobbying. This is Edward Snowden. In 2013, he leaked documents revealing the black budget, a shadow economy operating outside of congressional oversight. The U.S. intelligence community alone was operating on a $52.6 billion classified budget in a single year. This hidden money developed the SR-71 Blackbird and the F-117 Nighthawk. These aircraft flew operational combat missions for years before the government admitted they existed. The cycle continues today with the B-21 Raider. It is the latest multi-billion-dollar stealth program flying in the dark, largely shielded from the public record. Extreme financial classification functions as an unauditable profit shield. Because these programs are secret, they remain immune to the standard audits required of every other government agency. This lack of oversight has historically led to severe ethical compromises. At the end of World War II, the United States government launched Operation Paperclip. This is Wernher von Braun. He was an SS officer who used concentration camp labor to build V-2 rockets for the Nazis. The U.S. government recruited him and made him the architect of the NASA Saturn V rocket, prioritizing technological results over the prosecution of war crimes. By 1962, the Joint Chiefs of Staff drafted Operation Northwoods. This signed proposal called for CIA operatives to commit acts of terrorism against American civilians in Miami and Washington, D.C., to manufacture public support for invading Cuba. During the 2003 Iraq War, Vice President Dick Cheney's former company, Halliburton, received a multi-billion-dollar no-bid contract. With no competition, they charged $100 per bag of laundry and billed for millions of meals they never served. Operation Paperclip, Northwoods, and the Halliburton contracts establish a consistent baseline. When the alliance between the military and private industry operates in the dark, human life is treated as an acceptable cost of doing business. This corruption now impacts civilian life. The grounding of the Boeing 737 MAX fleet revealed how military-style corporate capture has moved into commercial aviation. To compete with rival manufacturers, Boeing modified a 60-year-old airframe to save on pilot retraining costs. Stopping massive new engines onto an old chassis changed the plane's aerodynamics, causing the nose to pitch up dangerously. Boeing tried to fix this hardware flaw with software called MCAS. It automatically forced the plane's nose down based on data from a single sensor. To protect their profits, Boeing intentionally hid the existence of this system from pilots and flight manuals. This photograph shows the aftermath of Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302. Because pilots didn't know the software existed, they had no way to counter it when a single faulty sensor triggered the system. 346 people paid with their lives. This occurred because the FAA had delegated safety certification back to Boeing. Management at the agency actively overruled their own safety engineers to keep Boeing's risk assessments low on paper. John Barnett, a veteran Boeing quality manager, spent years documenting how defective parts were being routed into aircraft. He was found dead in his truck on the morning of his legal deposition against the company. Regulatory capture allows corporations to effectively outsource government oversight to themselves, leaving civilians to pay the price for systemic negligence. The timing of John Barnett's death suggests a Hollywood-style assassination plot. However, the evidence required for a criminal case differs significantly from the narrative found on the internet. Journalistic integrity requires looking at the documented record. The revolving door, the black budgets, and the FAA overruling its engineers for Boeing are proven facts. There is currently no evidence that Boeing ordered a hit on Barnett. Police findings in South Carolina noted a suicide note and signs of personal distress, yet the conspiracy community turned the tragedy into a myth before the facts were processed. Adding cinematic assassination plots to these events is unnecessary. The documented reality of systemic negligence is already worse than fiction. This machine thrives in broad daylight, sustained by the legal protections of classification laws, campaign finance, and bureaucratic inertia. This map shows how defense contractors spread manufacturing jobs across enough congressional districts to make themselves politically untouchable. By turning weapon systems into local employment, they ensure that no politician can afford to vote against their funding. In 2024, Senator Elizabeth Warren attempted to legally ban the revolving door to stop Pentagon officials from immediately becoming lobbyists. The defense lobby crushed the effort, demonstrating how the system protects itself from structural reform. Structural reform starts with demanding real audits and protecting whistleblowers. The scandal is that these events occur in plain sight while the system continues regardless. We have to stop looking away.